The rain had turned the alley behind Romano's into a slick, treacherous maze of puddles and garbage bags. I could smell the sour tang of rotting vegetables mixed with the metallic scent of wet asphalt as I hauled another black bag toward the dumpster. My shoulders ached, a deep, bone-tired pain that had become so familiar I barely noticed it anymore. 12-hour shifts did that to you. Turned you invisible. Turned you into background noise in a world that never stopped moving. My sneakers squelched through the water, the thin canvas doing nothing to keep my feet dry. I'd need to stuff them with newspaper again tonight, let them dry by the radiator in my studio apartment. If they dried, if the radiator worked, the building super had been promising to fix it for 3 weeks now. But promises didn't keep you warm in December. I was reaching for the dumpster lid when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong. A grunt. Low, pained, human. My hand froze on the metal, heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. The alley stretched behind me, dark except for the weak yellow glow of the single security light above Romano's back door. Shadows pooled in every corner, thick and impenetrable. Hello? My voice came out smaller than I intended, swallowed by the drumming rain. Another sound. Closer this time. The scrape of shoes against pavement, unsteady, heavy. I should have gone back inside, should have locked the door, and let someone else deal with whatever this was. But my feet moved forward instead, drawn by something I couldn't name. Curiosity. Stupidity. That same reckless instinct that had gotten me into trouble more times than I could count. The man appeared from behind the dumpster like a ghost materializing from smoke. He was tall. So tall I had to tilt my head back to see his face, even hunched over, one hand pressed against the brick wall for support. He towered over me. His suit was the first thing I noticed. Black, perfectly tailored, the kind of fabric that probably cost more than my monthly rent. It caught the light differently than normal clothes, shimmering slightly even in the dim alley. Rain beaded on the shoulders, rolling off like the material was rejecting the very idea of getting dirty. Then I saw the blood. It spread across his white shirt in a bloom of crimson, stark and terrifying against the pristine fabric. His other hand clutched his side, fingers pressed tight against the wound, but blood seeped between them anyway, dark and thick. Jesus Christ, I breathed. His head lifted, and I found myself staring into eyes so dark they looked black in the shadows. His face was young, younger than the expensive suit suggested. Maybe 30, if that. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could have been carved from marble, lips pressed into a thin line of pain. He was beautiful in a way that made your chest tight. The kind of beautiful that belonged on magazine covers or movie screens, not bleeding out in an alley behind an Italian restaurant. Help. The word came out rough, scraped raw. His accent was subtle, but there. Italian, I thought, though I couldn't be sure. Please. Every instinct screamed at me to run. This was trouble. This was danger wrapped in an Armani suit and bleeding all over my Tuesday night. But his eyes, God, his eyes held mine like I was the only solid thing in a world that was tilting sideways. He took a step toward me and his legs gave out. I moved without thinking, lurching forward to catch him. His weight nearly took us both down, but I managed to brace against the wall, my arms wrapping around his torso. He was solid muscle beneath the suit, heavy and warm despite the rain. The smell of him hit me all at once. Expensive cologne, something dark and woody, mixed with copper and the sharp medicinal scent of whatever antiseptic he'd tried to use on the wound. "I've got you," I heard myself say, though I had no idea if that was true. "I've got you." His head dropped to my shoulder, breath hot against my neck. This close, I could feel the tremor running through him, the way his body fought to stay conscious. His blood was warm against my hands, soaking through my cheap polyester uniform, and distantly I thought about how I'd never get the stain out. "Can't... Here," he managed, voice fading. "They'll... find me." "Who?" I tried to shift his weight, to see his face. "Who's looking for you? Should I call the police?" The reaction was immediate. His hand shot up, fingers wrapping around my wrist with surprising strength. "No." The word came out sharp, commanding despite his condition. "No police." A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the rain. "Okay," I said quickly. Okay, no police, but you need a hospital. You're losing too much blood. No hospital. His grip tightened, and I felt the calluses on his palm, rough against my skin. These weren't the hands of someone who spent their days behind a desk. Please, just somewhere safe, somewhere they won't look. This was insane. Every cell in my body knew it was insane. I didn't know this man. Didn't know what he'd done to earn a knife in the ribs, or who was hunting him through the streets. Getting involved in this, whatever this was, could only end badly for someone like me. But his blood was on my hands now, warm and sticky and undeniably real. And when he looked at me again, those dark eyes somehow finding focus despite the pain, I saw something I recognized. Desperation. The kind that came from having nowhere else to turn. My apartment, I whispered, the words escaping before I could stop them. It's not far. 3 blocks. He nodded once, a sharp jerk of his chin, and I felt his weight shift as he tried to stand straighter. Good girl, he murmured, and something in the way he said it made heat bloom in my cheeks despite everything. Getting him out of the alley was a nightmare. He was too heavy, too tall, and every step sent fresh blood seeping through his shirt. I kept one arm locked around his waist, his arm draped over my shoulders, and tried not to think about what I was doing, tried not to think about my coworker's face when I didn't come back inside, or the cameras that might be watching, or the very real possibility that I was helping a criminal escape. The streets were emptier than usual, the rain keeping most people indoors. Still, every car that passed made my heart jump into my throat. Every shadow seemed to hide watching eyes. What's your name? His voice cut through my panic, surprisingly steady. Emma. I don't know why I told him the truth. Emma Collins. Emma. He repeated it like he was tasting it, rolling it around in his mouth. Pretty name. For a pretty girl. Save your strength, I muttered, adjusting my grip as we turned the corner onto my street. The building loomed ahead, 5 stories of aging brick and broken dreams. Home. Can't let them know, he said, words starting to slur. If they know about you, they'll use you. Who? I asked again, fumbling for my keys with my free hand. Who are they? But his head was dropping again, consciousness slipping. I managed to get the door open, half dragging him into the narrow lobby. The stairs looked impossibly steep. Come on, I urged, hiking his arm higher around my shoulders. Just 3 flights. You can do 3 flights. We made it to the second landing before his knees buckled. I caught him against the wall, his face pressed into my hair, breathing hard. This close, I could feel his heartbeat. Too fast, too uneven. Stay with me, I said, surprised by the fierceness in my own voice. Don't you dare pass out on these stairs. A sound escaped him that might have been a laugh. Bossy. Yeah, well, you literally fell into my arms. That makes you my problem now. Something shifted in his expression, visible even through the haze of pain. His free hand came up, fingers brushing my cheek with unexpected gentleness. Your problem, he repeated softly. Yes, mine now. The words didn't make sense, but I didn't have time to puzzle them out. I could hear Mrs. Chen's door opening on the first floor, her walker scraping against the tiles. The last thing I needed was witnesses. Move, I hissed, and somehow we made it up the final flight. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it. Tiny, cramped, the sum total of my existence crammed into 400 square feet. I kicked the door shut behind us and guided him toward the bed, the only piece of furniture large enough to hold him. He collapsed onto the mattress with a groan, and immediately my white sheets started turning red. Okay, I said, more to myself than to him. Okay, think. First aid kit under the bathroom sink. Clean towels. Water. I moved on autopilot, my hands shaking as I gathered supplies. When I came back, he was watching me, his dark eyes tracking my every movement. You should have left me, he said quietly. Probably. I knelt beside the bed, reaching for his shirt. The buttons were expensive, mother of pearl, and I felt guilty for a split second before ripping the shirt open. But I didn't, so let's focus on keeping you alive. The wound was ugly, a deep puncture just below his ribs, still seeping blood. Not as bad as I'd feared, though. The bleeding was slowing, which meant nothing vital had been hit. Probably. "This is going to hurt," I warned, pressing a towel against the wound. His jaw clenched, tendons standing out in his neck, but he didn't make a sound. I worked quickly, cleaning the wound as best I could, using butterfly bandages to pull the edges closed. My hands were steadier than I expected, muscle memory from a lifetime of small emergencies taking over. "You've done this before," he observed, watching my face. "My dad," I said without thinking. "He was accident-prone when he drank." Something flickered in his expression, understanding maybe, or pity. I didn't want either. "There." I sat back, surveying my work. It wasn't pretty, but it would hold. "You really should see a doctor." "Can't." His hand caught mine before I could pull away, his fingers lacing through mine. His blood made our palms stick together. "Emma, you saved my life tonight. I barely did anything. You saved my life," he repeated, more firmly. His thumb traced small circles on the back of my hand, the gesture absurdly intimate. That means something. Where I come from, that means everything. Before I could respond, before I could ask what he meant, his eyes rolled back, and consciousness finally fled. I sat there on the floor beside my bed, holding the hand of a beautiful stranger who'd collapsed into my arms, covered in his blood, and wondered what the hell I'd just gotten myself into. The rain continued to fall outside, washing the city clean. But some stains, I was learning, ran too deep to ever truly wash away. I didn't sleep. How could I? There was a man, a stranger, unconscious in my bed, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths that I counted obsessively through the night. Every hour I checked his pulse, pressed my palm against his forehead to gauge his temperature, peeled back the bandages to make sure the bleeding had stopped. It had, mostly. The white gauze bloomed with rust-colored stains, but nothing fresh seeped through. He never woke. Not when I cleaned the dried blood from his skin with a damp cloth, revealing more of that marble-carved body. Not when I covered him with my spare blanket, the thin fabric looking ridiculous draped over his expensive frame. Not even when I finally gave in around 4 a.m. and curled up in the armchair by the window, my body screaming for rest I couldn't afford to take. Dawn came gray and reluctant, filtering weak light through my curtains. I watched it creep across the floor, across the bed where he lay, illuminating features that looked softer in sleep, younger, almost innocent. If you ignored the violence written in the wound beneath the bandages, my phone buzzed. Romano's. Third call in the last 6 hours. I let it go to voicemail. The sound must have reached him because his eyes opened, unfocused at first, then sharpening with alarming speed as they found me across the room. He tried to sit up and immediately fell back with a hiss of pain. "Don't!" I was on my feet before I realized I'd moved, crossing to the bed. "You'll tear the wound open." His gaze locked onto mine, and I felt pinned by it, examined. In the morning light, his eyes weren't black after all. They were the deepest brown I'd ever seen, flecked with amber near the pupils, beautiful and dangerous, like looking into the heart of a fire. "You stayed," he said. It wasn't a question. Where else would I go? It's my apartment. The corner of his mouth lifted, barely, but enough that I caught it. "You could have left. Called someone. Turned me in." "To who? You said no police." I moved to the kitchen area, 3 steps away, everything within arm's reach in this shoebox, and filled a glass with water. "Here, you need to hydrate." He accepted the glass, our fingers brushing. Even that small contact sent electricity up my arm. I told myself it was just adrenaline. Leftover fear from the night before. Told myself I was lying. "What time is it?" he asked after draining half the glass. "Almost 7, Wednesday morning." I perched on the edge of the bed, careful not to jostle him. "How do you feel?" "Like I've been stabbed." That almost smile again, but alive. "Thanks to you. You said that last night. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything." The intensity in his voice made me flinch. His hand found mine again, and this time there was no blood between us, just skin on skin, warm and far too intimate for 2 people who didn't even know each other's names. "You understand?" "Everything." "I don't understand any of this," I admitted. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. I don't know who you are. I don't know who hurt you. I don't know what I've gotten myself into." He studied me for a long moment, something calculating moving behind those dark eyes. "My name," he said finally, "is Dante. Dante Moretti." The name meant nothing to me. Should it have? I searched his face for clues, finding only that unsettling intensity. "Okay, Dante. Why did someone try to kill you? Business dispute." He said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. "Nothing for you to worry about. Nothing to—" I pulled my hand away, standing abruptly. "You bled all over my apartment. Men are looking for you. That sounds like something to worry about. They won't find you." Absolute certainty in those words. "I'll make sure of it." "How?" "You can barely sit up." As if to prove me wrong, he pushed himself upright, jaw clenching against obvious pain. The blanket fell away, revealing his bandaged torso, the hard planes of muscle, the scattering of scars that suggested last night wasn't his first encounter with violence. He was imposing even injured, radiating a kind of controlled power that made my small apartment feel even smaller. "I need my phone," he said. "My jacket." "Where is it?" "The bathroom. I hung it up to dry." I watched him carefully. "Who are you calling?" "My people." Something cold settled in my stomach. "Your people. They'll be looking for me. Worried." He met my eyes, and for the first time I saw something soft there, almost apologetic. "Emma, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I don't even know you. You saved my life. That's knowing someone in the way that matters." I wanted to argue, to point out how insane that logic was. Instead, I found myself walking to the bathroom, retrieving his jacket. It was heavy, heavier than any jacket should be. My fingers found the inside pocket, felt the hard shape of a gun tucked there, and my blood turned to ice. He was watching me when I returned, his expression unreadable. I held out the jacket without a word. "Thank you." He pulled out a phone. No, 2 phones. 3. How many phones did one person need? He selected one, black and expensive looking, and pressed a single button. Someone answered before the first ring finished. "Capo." The voice on the other end was tinny but clear, speaking rapid Italian. Relief and urgency mixing in equal measure. Dante responded in the same language, his voice dropping into a register I hadn't heard before. Commanding. Absolute. Whatever he said made the person on the other end respond with immediate deference. Capo. The word rattled around in my head. I'd heard it in movies, read it in books. Boss. Oh God. The call lasted maybe 2 minutes. When he ended it, his eyes found mine, and he must have seen the understanding dawning there because his expression shifted. Became careful. "Emma, what are you?" The question came out as a whisper. "Who are you really?" He was quiet for a long moment. Rain had started again outside, pattering against the window. The only sound in the suddenly too small space between us. "I think you already know," he said softly. I did. Somewhere in the night, while cleaning his blood from my hands, while watching him breathe in my bed, I'd known. I'd just been too tired, too caught up in the immediate crisis, to let myself think it through. The expensive suit, the gun, the way he'd refused police, refused hospitals, the fear in his voice when he said they'll find me. Mafia, I breathed. That's a crude word. His mouth curved, not quite a smile, but yes, in essence. My legs felt weak. I sat down hard on the armchair, my mind racing. I'd helped a mobster, brought him to my home, let him bleed on my sheets. Every crime show I'd ever watched flashed through my head, every news story about innocent people caught in crossfire. "You need to leave," I said. "As soon as your people get here, you need to leave and forget this ever happened." "I can't do that." "Yes, you can. You just—" "Emma." He shifted, trying to stand, and I saw the pain lance through him. "Listen to me. What you did last night, taking me in, helping me, it was brave. Stupid, but brave, and now you're in this whether you like it or not." "No." I shook my head, backing toward the door. "No, I'm not. I'm nobody. I'm a waitress who made a mistake. You'll leave and I'll forget your face, and that's the end of it." You think it's that simple? His voice was gentle, which somehow made it worse. The moment my enemies saw you with me, and they have eyes everywhere, Emma, everywhere. You became a target, a way to get to me. That's not my problem. It is now. A knock at the door made us both freeze. 3 sharp raps, precise and controlled. Dante's entire demeanor changed. The injured man disappeared, replaced by someone harder, dangerous. He gestured sharply for me to stay back, reaching for the gun I'd felt in his jacket. Capo. A voice through the door, speaking Italian. It's Marco. Some of the tension left Dante's shoulders, but not all of it. Open it, he told me, slowly. My hands shook as I turned the lock. The door swung open to reveal 2 men in dark suits, both built like brick walls. The one in front, Marco, presumably, had kind eyes and a brutal face, salt and pepper hair cut military short. His gaze swept the apartment, cataloging everything, before landing on me with something that looked like concern. Signorina, he said, his accent thick. You are Emma, yes? I nodded, not trusting my voice. You help our capo. We are... He searched for the word. Grateful. In your debt. I don't want debt, I managed. I just want to forget this happened. The second man, younger with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, moved past me without a word. He went straight to Dante, examining the bandages with professional efficiency. They spoke in rapid Italian, too fast for me to catch more than a few words. Dante gestured toward me once, and both men's eyes snapped to my face with an intensity that made me want to hide. She did well, the scarred man said in accented English, apparently for my benefit. The wound is clean. No infection. She saved your life, Capo. I know. Dante's eyes never left me. Marco, I need a clean car. New phones. And someone watching this building. No one in or out without my knowing. Dante, I started. No one in or out, he repeated, voice hardening. She's under protection now. My protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me. The weight of those words settled over me like a physical thing. Protection. It sounded like safety, but I heard the chains underneath, the cage door closing. You can't do this, I said. You can't just decide I'm your responsibility. I already did. He stood finally, using Marco's shoulder for support. Even diminished by injury, he dominated the space. You saved my life, Emma Collins. In my world, that creates a bond, an obligation, and I always honor my obligations. I didn't ask for this, neither did I. Something raw flashed across his face. Neither of us asked for any of this. But here we are. Marco and the other man were efficiently gathering Dante's things, the bloodied shirt, his phones, anything that might identify him. They moved with practiced ease, clearly accustomed to cleaning up after their boss's disasters. We have a safe house prepared, Marco said. Doctor is waiting. We should go, Capo. Before the Vitales realize I'm alive, Dante finished. He took a step toward me, and I backed up instinctively. Something pained crossed his features. Emma, I need you to understand something. What happened last night, you stumbling into my path, that wasn't chance. That was fate. That's not real. In my world, it's the only thing that's real. He was close enough now that I could smell that dark cologne again, mixing with the copper tang of blood. You're mine to protect now, mine to keep safe. And I will. I promise you that. No one will touch you. No one will hurt you. Not while I breathe. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. It did terrify me, but underneath the fear, something else stirred, something I didn't want to name. I have to go to work, I said, clinging to normalcy like a lifeline. They're already calling. I can't just disappear. You won't. He glanced at Marco, some silent communication passing between them. You'll go to work. You'll keep your life, but you'll have shadows now, men who'll make sure you stay safe. That's not protection. That's surveillance. It's both. No apology in his voice. Emma, the people who did this to me, they won't stop. And if they think you mean something to me, I don't mean anything to you. We just met. His hand came up, fingers brushing my cheek with the same unexpected gentleness as the night before. You held my life in your hands, he murmured. You chose to save me when you could have walked away. That means everything. Marco cleared his throat. Capo, we really should... I know. But Dante didn't move, his eyes searching mine like he was trying to memorize my face. I'll see you again soon, Emma. Count on it. They left the way they'd come, efficiently, professionally, erasing every trace of their presence. Except for the blood on my sheets, except for the gun-shaped weight of knowledge sitting heavy in my chest, except for the feeling of Dante's fingers on my skin, burning like a brand. I stood in my empty apartment, listening to the rain, and knew with absolute certainty that my life had just changed forever. The chains were already closing around me. I just couldn't decide yet if I wanted to break free. 3 days passed before I saw him again. 3 days of looking over my shoulder at every corner, jumping at shadows that moved wrong, feeling eyes on me everywhere I went. Marco hadn't lied. I had shadows now. They were good at their job, almost invisible, but I'd learned to spot them. The man in the gray sedan parked across from my building. The woman who always seemed to be at the bus stop when I left for work. The suited figure nursing an espresso at the cafe where I grabbed my morning coffee. Dante's protection felt like a noose tightening slowly around my throat. Romano's was hell. I'd called in sick the morning after, my voice rough enough to sell the lie, but I couldn't avoid it forever. When I finally returned, my manager, a perpetually stressed man named Vincent, had pulled me aside with a look that was equal parts concern and suspicion. You okay, Collins? You look like you haven't slept. I hadn't. Not really. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dante's blood spreading across my hands, felt the weight of his body collapsing into my arms, heard that voice in my ear, "You're mine to protect now." "Just a bug," I'd said. "I'm fine." I wasn't fine. Thursday night, the restaurant was packed. Some corporate event that had every table filled with loud men in loosened ties drinking too much wine and leaving terrible tips. My feet ached, my back screamed, and I'd lost count of how many times someone's hand had accidentally brushed against me when I leaned over to clear plates. I was carrying a tray of dirty dishes toward the kitchen when I felt it, that electric awareness that meant someone was watching me. Not the casual observation of customers waiting for refills, something focused, intense. I turned, scanning the dining room, and found him. Dante sat alone at a corner table, somehow occupying the best seat in the house, even though I knew for a fact we'd been fully booked for weeks. He wore a different suit, charcoal gray this time, perfectly tailored, making him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread. No sign of the injury that had nearly killed him. No hint of weakness at all, but his eyes. God. His eyes locked onto me like a predator spotting prey, and I felt the tray slip in my suddenly nerveless fingers. I caught it just in time, the dishes rattling but not falling. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. What was he doing here? This was my space, my job, the one piece of normalcy I had left, and he was contaminating it with his presence. Marco appeared at his elbow, leaning down to murmur something in his ear. Dante's gaze never left my face as he responded, a slight curve to his mouth that wasn't quite a smile. I forced myself to turn away, to keep moving toward the kitchen. My hands shook as I set the tray down on the counter. "Emma." Vincent grabbed my arm, his grip tight with barely contained panic. "Table 12 needs you, now." "I'm not assigned to." "You are now. Go. Table 12. Of course. Where else would Dante Moretti sit? I grabbed a notepad, smoothed down my stained apron, and walked across the dining room on legs that felt like water. Every step brought me closer to that corner table, to those dark eyes that tracked my movement with unsettling focus. "Good evening." My voice came out steadier than I felt. Professional, distant. "Can I start you with something to drink?" "Emma." The way he said my name, like he was tasting it, savoring it, made heat crawl up my spine. "Sit down." "I'm working." "Sit down." Not a request. A command, delivered in a tone that probably made grown men scramble to obey. I wasn't going to obey. I was going to tell him exactly where he could shove his orders, consequences be damned. But then I saw Vincent watching from across the room, saw the barely disguised terror in his expression, and realized my boss knew exactly who Dante was. Everyone probably knew who he was, except me. I'd been the only one stupid enough not to recognize a predator when he collapsed into my arms. I sat, Better. Dante leaned back, studying me with that unnerving intensity. He looked completely recovered, no hint of pain in his movements. You've been avoiding me. I haven't been avoiding you. I've been living my life, with my men watching your every move. Your men are hard to miss. His mouth curved into a genuine smile this time, and the transformation was devastating. It softened the harsh lines of his face, made him look younger, almost approachable. Almost. They're supposed to be invisible, he said. I'll have to retrain them. Or you could call them off entirely. I kept my voice low, aware of the other diners around us. You said I could keep my life. Having bodyguards follow me everywhere isn't keeping my life. It's keeping you alive. There's a difference. He gestured to Marco, who immediately stepped forward with a bottle of wine I knew cost more than my weekly paycheck. The Vitalis are angry. They lost men in the ambush that night. They're looking for revenge. That has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. He poured wine into 2 glasses, sliding one across the table to me. They know someone helped me escape. They're searching for that person, and when they find you, if they find me, I interrupted. Maybe they won't. Maybe I'm not that important to your little war. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. You're important to me. That makes you important to everyone. The words hung between us, heavy with implication. I picked up the wine glass just to have something to do with my hands, taking a sip that burned all the way down. Why are you here? I asked finally. Why come to my work? Risk being seen? I wanted to see you. Simple. Direct. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. I've been thinking about you, Emma. For 3 days, I've thought about nothing else. That should concern me. It does concern me, but I can't seem to stop. My pulse jumped. You don't know me. I know you saved my life. I know you're brave enough to take in a stranger bleeding in an alley. I know you work yourself to exhaustion in this place, and still your boss looks at you like you're disposable. His jaw tightened. I know more than you think. You had me investigated. Of course I did. You became my responsibility the moment you touched me. I needed to know everything. Your name, your history, where you live, what you fear. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, and the intensity rolling off him made it hard to breathe. I know your father died 2 years ago. Liver failure. I know you're alone in this city, working 3 jobs just to keep that apartment. I know you're stronger than you have any right to be. Anger sparked in my chest, hot and defensive. You have no right to dig into my life. I have every right. You're mine now. I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. Emma. The way he said my name this time was different. Softer. Almost gentle. I understand you're frightened. This world I live in, it's not kind. It's not safe. But I can protect you from it. I can give you things you've never dreamed of. I don't want your money. Everyone wants money. Not me. I set the wine glass down too hard, the sound sharp in the intimate space between us. I want my life back, the one I had before you fell into it and turned everything upside down. He watched me for a long moment, something unreadable moving behind those dark eyes. That life is gone, Piccola. The moment you chose to help me, it ended. You can't go back. You can only move forward. With you. Yes. With me. No hesitation. No doubt. I can give you safety, Emma. Comfort. Everything you've been struggling for, I can provide in an instant. All you have to do is let me. And what do you get out of this arrangement? His smile returned, sharper this time, knowing. I get you. The honesty in those words should have repulsed me. Should have sent me running back to the kitchen, back to my tiny apartment, back to anything that wasn't this dangerous man offering to cage me in gold, but heat pooled low in my stomach anyway. Unwanted and undeniable. I need to get back to work, I managed. No, you don't. He gestured again, and I watched in horror as Vincent appeared at the table, wringing his hands nervously. Mr. Moretti, my boss said, his voice obsequious in a way I'd never heard before. Is everything satisfactory? Very. Emma will be joining me for dinner. Take her off the schedule for the rest of the night. Of course, Emma. You're free to go. Vincent. I started. It's fine, Collins. Really. Take the night off. You've earned it. He scurried away before I could argue, and I turned back to Dante with fury rising in my throat. You can't do this. You can't just buy people. I didn't buy anyone. I made a request. Your boss was happy to accommodate. He poured more wine, completely unbothered by my anger. Now, tell me what you'd like to eat. The chef here is excellent, though I suspect you already know that. I'm not hungry. You're always hungry. You work yourself to exhaustion and barely eat. That changes now. You don't get to decide. Emma. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine before I could pull away. His palm was warm, the touch sending electricity racing up my arm. Please, have dinner with me. Let me do this one small thing. Then, if you truly want me gone, I'll go. I didn't believe him. Couldn't believe him. Men like Dante Moretti didn't just walk away from things they'd decided they wanted. But the weight of his hand on mine, the earnestness in his dark eyes, the bone-deep exhaustion in my own body, all of it conspired to keep me in that chair. One dinner, I said finally. That's all. His smile was victorious. One dinner. He ordered for both of us, dishes I'd served 100 times but never tasted, each one more expensive than the last. The food was incredible, melt-in-your-mouth perfect, and I hated that I couldn't help savoring every bite. Hated that across from me, Dante watched me eat with satisfaction, warming his features. You have no family? He asked between courses. No one who checks on you? My dad was all I had. After he died, I shrugged, pushing risotto around my plate. I figured out how to manage alone. You shouldn't have to manage. You should be taken care of. By you. Yes, by me. He said it like it was inevitable, like the universe had already decided, and we were just playing out the script. I can give you a better life, Emma, a real home. Security. All you have to do is say yes. To what exactly? What are you asking me? He was quiet for a moment, considering. I'm asking you to let me keep you safe. To accept my protection. To stop fighting this thing between us and see where it leads. There's nothing between us. We're strangers. We stopped being strangers the moment your arms caught me. The moment you chose to save me instead of save yourself. He leaned forward again, and I was drowning in those eyes, in the intensity of his focus. I've done terrible things, Emma. Things that would make you run screaming if you knew the details. But with you... He paused, something almost vulnerable crossing his face. With you, I want to be better. You make me want to be better. That's not fair. My voice came out hoarse. You can't put that on me. I'm not responsible for your redemption. I'm not asking you to redeem me. I'm asking you to let me worship you. The word hit me like a physical blow. Worship. As if I was something precious, something sacred, instead of a broke waitress with nothing to offer. You're insane, I whispered. Probably. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand, the gesture hypnotic. But I'm also serious, deadly serious. You're in my head, Emma Collins, in my blood, and I don't think you're ever leaving. A crash from across the room shattered the moment. I jerked my hand away, turning to see one of the other waitresses, Sophia, staring at our table with wide, horrified eyes. She'd dropped a tray, glass and ceramic scattered across the floor, but she wasn't looking at the mess. She was looking at Dante, then at me, then back to Dante. Recognition and fear warred in her expression. Sophia. I started to stand, to help clean up. Stay. Dante's voice froze me in place. His gaze had shifted to the other woman, something cold and assessing in the look. Marco. The bodyguard materialized from wherever he'd been lurking, moving toward Sophia with purpose. She backed up, nearly stumbling over the broken dishes. It's fine, she stammered. I'm fine, just clumsy. I'll clean it up. But her hands shook as she bent to gather the larger pieces, and I saw tears threatening to spill down her cheeks. She knew who Dante was, knew what he represented, and seeing me sitting here with him, eating his expensive food, accepting his attention, it had terrified her. It should terrify me too. Why didn't it terrify me more? I need to help her, I said, starting to rise again. This time Dante didn't stop me. 10 minutes, he said quietly. Then you come back. We're not finished talking. I nodded and fled to Sophia's side, dropping to my knees among the wreckage. She grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise, her lips close to my ear. "Are you insane?" she hissed. "Do you know who that is?" "Yes." "Then why are you sitting with him? Emma, he's dangerous. People disappear around men like him. You need to run." "I can't." The truth of it sat heavy in my chest. "He won't let me." Her face crumpled. "Oh, God. Emma, it's fine, I'm fine. He thinks he owes me something. It'll blow over." But even as I said the words, I knew they were a lie. Nothing about Dante Moretti was going to blow over. He'd attached himself to me like a shadow, and shadows didn't leave just because you wanted them to. I helped Sophia clean up the mess, hyper-aware of Dante's eyes burning into my back the entire time. When I finally returned to the table, he was on his phone, speaking rapid Italian in that commanding tone that made even Marco straighten nervously. He ended the call as I sat down. "Your friend is frightened of me. Most people probably are, but not you." It wasn't a question. "Why aren't you frightened of me, Emma?" I thought about lying, about telling him I was terrified, that every instinct screamed at me to run, but his eyes held mine, demanding honesty, and I found myself giving it. "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe I should be, but when I look at you, all I see is the man who was bleeding in my arms, the one who said please like it hurt him. That man didn't seem dangerous. He seemed human." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. His hand found mine again across the table, and this time I didn't pull away. "I am dangerous, Piccola," he murmured. "Make no mistake about that, but never to you. Never, ever to you." The promise in those words wrapped around me like chains made of silk. Beautiful, suffocating, inescapable. The car waiting outside Romano's wasn't subtle. A black Mercedes with windows tinted so dark they looked like mirrors. Marco held the door open, his expression professionally blank, while Dante's hand rested on the small of my back, guiding me forward with gentle but inexorable pressure. "I can take the bus," I said, even though we both knew it was pointless. "Not anymore." Dante's voice was firm. "Not ever again." The interior smelled like leather, and that dark cologne of his, expensive and intoxicating. I sank into seats softer than my mattress while Dante settled beside me, close enough that his thigh pressed against mine. Marco took the front passenger seat, and another man I didn't recognize slid behind the wheel. "Where are we going?" I asked as the car pulled smoothly into traffic. "Somewhere safe." Dante was looking at his phone, scrolling through messages with a frown. "Somewhere we can talk without interruption." We just talked, for 2 hours. That wasn't talking. That was me watching you eat and wanting to feed you every bite myself. He glanced up, catching my expression, and that devastating smile returned. "Don't look so shocked, Piccola. I told you. I want to worship you. That includes ensuring you're properly cared for." Heat crept up my neck. "I can take care of myself. You shouldn't have to. Not anymore." The car wound through streets I recognized, then ones I didn't, climbing into hills where the houses grew larger and farther apart. Old money territory, the kind of neighborhood where people like me only came to clean or serve. We turned through iron gates that opened automatically, rolling up a curved driveway lined with manicured hedges. The house, no, mansion, that appeared made my breath catch. 3 stories of honey-colored stone, windows glowing warm in the darkness, surrounded by gardens that probably cost more to maintain than I made in a year. "This is yours?" I asked stupidly. "One of my properties. The safest one." Dante was already out of the car, offering his hand to help me. "Come, I want to show you something." I should have refused. Should have demanded he take me home, back to my cramped apartment where at least I understood the rules. Instead, I placed my hand in his and let him pull me into his world. The interior was even more breathtaking. Marble floors, soaring ceilings, artwork that looked like it belonged in museums. But Dante didn't give me time to gawk. He led me through rooms that blurred together in their opulence, up a sweeping staircase, down a hallway lined with closed doors. He stopped at the last door, his hand on the knob, and something vulnerable flickered across his face. "I had this prepared for you," he said quietly. After I learned about your apartment, about how you live, I couldn't stand thinking of you in that place, so Please, just look. He opened the door. The room beyond stole my breath. It was huge, easily 3 times the size of my entire apartment, decorated in soft creams and golds that caught the light from crystal lamps. A bed that could sleep 4 dominated one wall, dressed in linens that looked like clouds. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens, the city lights twinkling in the distance like fallen stars. An ensuite bathroom visible through an open door promised marble and luxury I couldn't begin to comprehend. But it was the details that broke something in my chest. The bookshelf filled with worn paperbacks, romance novels, the kind I devoured during rare free moments. The soft throw blanket draped over a reading chair, the exact shade of blue I'd told my father was my favorite years ago. The framed photograph on the nightstand that I recognized with a jolt. Me and my dad, taken at a carnival the summer before he got sick, both of us laughing at something long forgotten. How did you... My voice cracked. I told you. I needed to know everything about you. Dante moved to stand behind me, not touching but close enough that I felt his heat. The books were easy. Your library card history is surprisingly accessible. The photograph was in your apartment. I had it copied and restored. The color, that took more research. But I found an old interview your father gave to a local paper, mentioned you loved that specific shade of blue. I couldn't breathe. The thoughtfulness, the attention to detail, the sheer effort he'd put into creating this space. It was too much, too intimate, too presumptuous, too perfect. This is insane, I whispered. You can't just make me a room in your house. I can. I did. His hands settled on my shoulders, warm and possessive. Emma, I meant what I said at dinner. I want to take care of you. This room, this house, it's all yours if you want it. No strings, no expectations. Just let me give you the life you deserve. I barely know you. But I didn't pull away from his touch. Couldn't. Then get to know me. He turned me to face him, his dark eyes searching mine. Stay tonight. Let me show you that I'm not just the dangerous man your friend fears. Let me prove I can be good for you. Every rational thought screamed at me to refuse. To run back down those stairs, out those gates. Back to my small, safe life where men like Dante Moretti only existed in movies and cautionary tales. But his hands were so gentle on my shoulders, and the room behind me promised comfort I'd never known. And exhaustion, bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion, made the thought of sleeping in that cloud-like bed almost irresistible. One night, I heard myself say, "That's all." The smile that crossed his face was pure triumph. One night. He left me alone to explore the room, to discover the walk-in closet filled with clothes in exactly my size, the drawers stocked with toiletries and personal items I hadn't known I needed, every detail considered, every comfort anticipated. It should have felt like a cage. Instead, it felt like coming home. I showered in that marble bathroom, standing under water pressure that actually worked, using products that smelled like heaven, and probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. When I emerged, wrapped in the softest robe I'd ever touched, I found Dante had returned. He sat in the reading chair, still in his suit, but with the jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that were pure corded muscle. "Better?" he asked, his eyes tracking the water still dripping from my hair. "Yes." I clutched the robe tighter. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. This is the bare minimum of what you deserve." He stood, moving toward me with that predatory grace. "Emma, I need to tell you something. About what happened the night we met." My stomach tightened. "Okay." "The man who stabbed me, his name was Enzo Vitale, third son of the Vitale family, one of our biggest rivals." "Mum," he kept his distance, like he sensed I needed space. "We'd arranged a meeting to discuss territories, try to avoid all-out war, but it was a trap. They wanted me dead, wanted to decapitate my organization in one move. What happened? I killed him." No emotion in his voice, just fact. "He came at me with the knife, and I killed him. But not before he got that blade between my ribs. My men found me seconds later, helped me escape." "But the Vitales, they're claiming I murdered Enzo in cold blood, that I violated the terms of our meeting. They want revenge." I sank onto the edge of the bed, processing. And they think I helped you escape. They know you did. They have informants everywhere, Emma, eyes watching, ears listening. They know a woman took me from that alley. They've been searching for you for days. His jaw tightened. That's why I can't let you go back to your life like nothing happened. They will find you. They will use you to hurt me unless I keep you close, unless I make it very clear that touching you means declaring war on my entire family, your family. The word felt strange in my mouth. You keep saying that, but you're talking about the mob, about criminals. Yes. He didn't flinch from the word. I'm a criminal, Emma. I break laws. I hurt people who threaten what's mine. I've done things that would make you sick if you knew the details. But I also protect what's mine with everything I have, and you're mine now. Whether you accept it or not, I'm not a possession. No. You're far more precious than any possession. He moved closer, dropping to his knees in front of me so we were eye level. The position should have been submissive, but somehow he still radiated power. You're the woman who saved my life, who looked at me bleeding and broken and chose kindness. Do you understand how rare that is? In my world, people don't help without expecting payment. They don't show mercy without ulterior motives. But you did. You saved me because it was the right thing to do. His hands covered mine where they clutched the robe. That makes you dangerous, Piccola. Dangerous to me. Because now I can't stop thinking about you, can't stop wanting to keep you safe, keep you close, keep you mine. It's obsession. Possession. Every dark thing your romance novels warn against. And I should let you go. Should send you far away where my world can't touch you. But you won't. I already knew the answer. No, I won't. I'm too selfish. Too obsessed. His thumbs traced patterns on my knuckles. I want you, Emma. Want you in ways that should shame me. And I'll use every resource I have to make you want me back. That's not how feelings work. You can't just manufacture attraction, can't I? His gaze dropped to my lips, then back to my eyes. Your pulse is racing. I can see it in your throat. Your breathing changed the moment I knelt in front of you. You're attracted to me, even if you don't want to be, even if it terrifies you. He was right. God help me, he was right. My body had betrayed me, responding to his proximity, his intensity, the dark promise in his eyes. Physical attraction isn't the same as trust, I managed. No, but it's a start. He released my hand, standing. Get some sleep, Emma. Tomorrow we'll talk more. You'll see that I can be good for you, that this life I'm offering isn't a prison. It's freedom from everything you've been struggling against. He moved toward the door, and panic surged unexpectedly in my chest. Where are you going? My room, down the hall. He paused, looking back. Did you think I'd stay? Force myself on you? I don't know what to think about you. Think that I'm a monster who wants to be your monster. Think that I'd burn the world down before I let anyone hurt you. Think that I'm patient enough to wait until you come to me willingly. His smile was dark. Because you will, Piccola. Eventually you'll stop fighting this and let yourself fall. And I'll be right there to catch you. He left, the door clicking shut behind him, and I was alone in that beautiful room with my racing heart and treacherous thoughts. I should have run. Should have climbed out that window, stolen a car, disappeared into the night. Instead, I crawled into that impossible bed, surrounded by softness and the faint scent of Dante's cologne that seemed to linger in everything, and fell into the deepest sleep I'd had in years. When I woke, morning light was streaming through those floor-to-ceiling windows, and the smell of coffee drifted from somewhere below. I found clothes laid out, jeans that fit perfectly, a soft sweater, even undergarments in exactly my size. Everything I needed, anticipated before I even knew I needed it. I dressed in a daze and followed the coffee smell downstairs, through rooms that looked different in daylight. Less intimidating. More like a home that happened to be obscenely expensive. Dante stood in a kitchen that could have housed my entire apartment, wearing dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked domestic and dangerous all at once, and when he smiled at my appearance, my traitorous heart skipped. Coffee? He offered, already pouring a cup. I wasn't sure how you take it, but I had Marco research your usual order. Of course you did. I accepted the cup. Perfect temperature, perfect ratio of cream to sugar, and tried not to think about how he'd known. Did you sleep? Some. Mostly I worked. He gestured to a laptop open on the counter, screens full of text I couldn't read from this distance. The Vitales made a move last night. Nothing serious, just posturing, but it reminded me why keeping you close is necessary. Dante? Emma? He moved around the counter, invading my space in a way that should have felt aggressive but somehow didn't. I know you're scared. I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to understand something. Those men, they don't play by rules. They don't care about innocence or fairness. If they find you without my protection, they will hurt you in ways I can't even speak aloud. And then they'll send pieces of you back to me as a message. Horror crawled up my spine. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to make you understand reality. My reality, which is now your reality. His hand came up, cupping my cheek with surprising gentleness. I will not let that happen. I will keep you safe, but you have to let me. You have to stop fighting this and accept that your life has changed. What if I can't? My voice came out small. What if I can't accept this? Then I'll wait and protect you anyway, because walking away isn't an option anymore, Piccola, for either of us. His phone buzzed. Harsh, insistent. He glanced at the screen, and something cold passed over his features. Marco needs me. Business that can't wait. He looked back at me, conflicted. Will you be here when I return? It was the first time he'd phrased it as a choice. The first time he'd acknowledged I could leave if I truly wanted to. I thought about my apartment, probably being watched by Vitale men. My job, where Sophia had looked at me with such fear. The life I'd built that suddenly felt like tissue paper, fragile, temporary, ready to tear at the first strong wind. Then I thought about this kitchen, the room upstairs, the way Dante's eyes softened when they landed on me. The safety he promised. Even if it came wrapped in possession and control. I'll be here, I whispered. The smile that crossed his face was pure relief. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, chaste, reverent, and then he was gone. Marco and 2 other men materializing to follow him out. I stood alone in that enormous kitchen, coffee cooling in my hands, and wondered if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life, or if, somehow, I'd just chosen to save myself the same way I'd saved him. The cage door had closed. I just couldn't tell yet if I was the prisoner or if I'd found sanctuary. Blocko 5. 2 weeks. That's how long it took for my old life to become a memory, something distant and half-forgotten like a dream upon waking. 2 weeks of living in Dante's mansion, surrounded by luxury I'd never imagined, protected by men who materialized from shadows whenever I so much as thought about leaving. 2 weeks of falling. I told myself I was just being practical. That staying here, accepting his protection, was survival instinct and nothing more. But that lie grew harder to maintain every time Dante came home and sought me out first, before his men, before his business, before everything else that demanded his attention. He'd find me in the library he'd shown me on day 3, another room filled with books he'd somehow known I'd love, and just watch me. Those dark eyes tracking my movements like I was something precious he couldn't quite believe was real. Tell me about your day, he'd say, settling into the chair across from mine, and I'd find myself talking about the books I'd read, the gardens I'd explored, the strange domesticity of living in a house with a dozen people who all deferred to me like I was someone important. In return, he told me pieces of himself, careful pieces, edited for my protection, but pieces nonetheless. About growing up in his world, inheriting power at 23 when his father was killed, about the weight of protecting not just himself, but hundreds of people who depended on him, about the loneliness of trust being a luxury he couldn't afford, until you, he'd said one night, wine making him more honest than usual. You don't want anything from me except to be left alone. That's refreshing. I don't want to be left alone anymore, I'd admitted before I could stop myself. The look in his eyes had burned. Now it was Friday evening, and I stood in front of the mirror in my room. My room. I'd started thinking of it, which was dangerous, smoothing down the dress Dante had sent up. Deep emerald green, designer label. Probably worth more than I used to make in 3 months. It hugged curves I usually hid under baggy uniforms, made me look like someone who belonged in his world. A knock at the door made my pulse jump. Come in. Dante entered, and the air seemed to contract around us. He wore all black tonight, shirt, slacks, even his shoes, making him look like a dangerous shadow come to life. His eyes swept over me, and the hunger that flashed there made my skin burn. "Beautiful," he breathed. "Emma, you're devastating." "It's just a dress." "It's not the dress." He crossed to me in 3 strides, his hands settling on my waist, pulling me back against his chest. In the mirror, we looked like we belonged together, his darkness framing my light, his height making me seem delicate despite never feeling delicate a day in my life. "It's you. It's always been you." I should have pulled away, should have maintained the distance I'd been desperately trying to preserve. But his warmth seeped into me, his cologne wrapped around my senses, and I found myself leaning back into him instead. "Where are we going?" My voice came out breathy. "Dinner. A restaurant I own, fully secured, completely private. I want to show you off." His lips brushed my temple. "I want the world to know you're mine, Dante." "I know. You're not ready to hear that yet, but it doesn't make it less true." He met my eyes in the mirror. "Emma, these 2 weeks with you here have been the best of my life. Do you understand that? The best. Coming home to you, talking with you, watching you exist in my space. It's everything I didn't know I needed." "You barely know me," I protested weakly. "I know enough. I know you're kind even when the world has given you every reason not to be. I know you're strong, stronger than you realize. I know you try to hide how much you're starting to care about me, but I see it anyway. In the way you wait up when I'm late, in how you've stopped flinching when I touch you, in the fact that you're still here when you could have run a dozen times." He was right. I had stopped flinching, had started anticipating his touch instead of just enduring it, had caught myself listening for his car in the evenings, something tight in my chest loosening when I heard him arrive home safe. "This is insane," I whispered. "Yes. Beautifully, perfectly insane." He turned me to face him, hands framing my face. "Emma, I need to tell you something before we go tonight. Something important." The seriousness in his tone made anxiety spike in my chest. "What?" "The Vitales. They found out who you are, your full name, your old address, everything." His thumb stroked my cheekbones, keeping me calm when I wanted to panic. "They sent a message this afternoon. They want a meeting. They're threatening to come after you if I don't agree to their terms." "What terms?" "Territory, money, power, the usual demands." His jaw tightened. "They think you're my weakness. They think threatening you will make me fold." "Will it?" I had to know. Had to understand what I'd become to him. "Yes." No hesitation. Brutal honesty. "For you, I'd give them everything. But I won't have to. Because tonight, at dinner, I'm making a very public statement. I'm claiming you officially, making it known that you're not just under my protection. You're mine, my woman, and anyone who touches you declares war on my entire organization." The possessiveness should have angered me. Should have sent me running back to my room, demanding he take me anywhere but deeper into his world. Instead, warmth bloomed in my chest, spreading through my limbs like whiskey. What if I don't want to be claimed? But even I heard the lack of conviction in my voice. "Then tell me no." His eyes searched mine, vulnerable despite his power. "Tell me you don't feel this thing between us. Tell me you don't think about me the way I think about you. Tell me your heart doesn't race when I walk into a room. Tell me any of that, and I'll step back. I'll keep you safe from a distance. I'll let you go." I couldn't. God help me. I couldn't tell him any of those things because they'd all be lies. "I'm scared," I admitted instead. "Good. You should be. I'm terrifying when it comes to protecting what's mine." He pressed his forehead to mine, breathing me in. "But Emma, I promise you this. I will never hurt you. I will kill anyone who tries. I will build you a fortress out of my own bones if that's what it takes to keep you safe. All you have to do is say yes. Say you're mine the way I'm already yours." "Dante, say it." His hand slid into my hair, tilting my head back, his lips a breath away from mine. "Please, Piccola. Let me have you. Let me worship you the way I've been dying to since the moment you caught me in that alley." Every rational thought, every self-preservation instinct, every warning voice in my head. They all went silent in the face of the raw need in his eyes. This powerful man, this dangerous criminal who could have anything he wanted, was begging me, asking for permission instead of just taking. Yes, I breathed. The kiss was immediate, consuming, turning my world inside out. His mouth claimed mine like he was starving for it, one hand still in my hair while the other pressed into the small of my back, crushing me against him. I kissed him back just as desperately, weeks of tension and denial breaking like a dam. He tasted like whiskey and danger and something uniquely him, addictive in a way that should have terrified me. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His eyes had gone almost black with desire, pupils blown wide. Ma caught me in that alley. Every rational thought, every self-preservation instinct, every warning voice in my head, they all went silent in the face of the raw need in his eyes. This powerful man, this dangerous criminal who could have anything he wanted, was begging me, asking for permission instead of just taking. Yes, I breathed. The kiss was immediate, consuming, turning my world inside out. His mouth claimed mine like he was starving for it, one hand still in my hair while the other pressed into the small of my back, crushing me against him. I kissed him back just as desperately, weeks of tension and denial breaking like a dam. He tasted like whiskey and danger and something uniquely him, addictive in a way that should have terrified me. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His eyes had gone almost black with desire, pupils blown wide. Mine, he said against my lips. Say it. Yours, I whispered back, and felt the truth of it settle into my bones. I'm yours. The smile that crossed his face was pure triumph and wonder mixed together. And I'm yours, Emma Collins, for however long you'll have me. The restaurant was everything he'd promised. Exclusive, beautiful, and completely empty except for us. He'd reserved the entire place, filling it with candlelight and roses, making me feel like something out of a fairy tale. We ate courses I couldn't even name, drank wine that probably cost more than my monthly rent used to, and between it all, he touched me, his hand on mine, his fingers trailing up my arm, his foot hooked around my ankle under the table. Claiming, possessive, undeniable. I need you to understand something, he said as dessert arrived. After tonight, after this becomes public, there's no going back. You'll be marked, associated with me. My enemies will see you as a target. My allies will see you as someone to respect and protect. Your old life, it ends permanently. It already ended, I said. The night I caught you. I just didn't know it yet. No regrets? I thought about my cramped apartment, my exhausting jobs, the loneliness that had become so normal I'd stopped noticing it. Then I thought about waking up in that beautiful room, having coffee with Dante in the mornings, the way his face softened when he looked at me. No regrets, I confirmed. Not about you. Something vulnerable flashed in his eyes. Emma, I need to tell you something else. About that night. About why I was in that alley in the first place. Okay. I was running. Not just from Enzo, but from the meeting entirely. Because I knew. I knew it was a trap. My instinct screamed at me to get out. And I did. I ran like a coward instead of fighting. His hand tightened on mine. If I'd stayed, if I'd faced them directly, none of this would have happened. You'd still be living your life, oblivious to my world, safe. But we wouldn't have met. No, we wouldn't have. He looked almost haunted. Sometimes I wonder if that would have been better. For you. I reached across the table, cupping his cheek the way he so often did to me. I saved you for a reason, Dante. Maybe fate, maybe chance, I don't know. But I don't regret it. Not the choice I made that night, and not the choices I'm making now. He turned his head, pressing a kiss to my palm. I love you. The words were quiet, but they hit like thunder. I know it's too soon. I know I shouldn't feel this much this fast. But I do. I love you, Emma. Obsessively. Completely. In ways that would probably concern a therapist. My heart stuttered. Dante, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. Needed you to understand that this isn't just possession or obsession or my need to protect you. It's love. Real, terrifying, all-consuming love. Tears pricked my eyes. You're insane. For you? Absolutely. He stood, coming around the table to pull me to my feet, dance with me. There was no music, but I let him pull me close anyway, let him sway us in a gentle rhythm only he could hear. His hand splayed possessively across my lower back, holding me against him, while I rested my head on his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Strong, steady, alive because I'd chosen to save him. I think I'm falling for you too, I admitted into his shirt. I think I have been since you said please in that alley. His arms tightened around me. Yeah? Yeah, it's terrifying. Good terrifying or bad terrifying? I pulled back to look at him, at this beautiful, dangerous man who'd turned my world upside down and somehow made it better. Good terrifying. The kind that feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing you're about to jump but trusting someone will catch you. I'll always catch you, he promised. Always. He kissed me again, slower this time, savoring instead of consuming. When he finally pulled back, his smile was soft. Come on. I want to show you something. He led me outside, where Marco waited with the car, but instead of the mansion, we drove deeper into the city, stopping at a building I recognized, my old apartment complex. Why are we here? I asked, confused. Because you need closure. He helped me out of the car, keeping my hand in his. One last look at what was, so you can fully embrace what is. We climbed those familiar stairs. Stairs I'd helped him up just 2 weeks ago, both of us bleeding and desperate. My apartment door had a new lock, but Dante had a key. Of course he did. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it, except cleaner. The blood-stained sheets were gone, replaced with new ones. My few possessions had been packed carefully into boxes, labeled and ready to move. I had my people come through, document everything, pack what you might want to keep, Dante explained. The rest, the furniture, the kitchen supplies, I'm donating to a women's shelter. Unless you want any of it. I walked through the tiny space, seeing it with new eyes. Had I really lived here? Had this cramped, dark box really been home? No, I said finally. I don't want any of it, except... I grabbed the worn photograph of me and my dad from the nightstand, the original that Dante had copied. Just this. Then it's yours. He watched me carefully. Emma, this place, you're sure you're ready to leave it behind? I looked around one last time, at the radiator that never worked, at the water stains on the ceiling, at the life I'd built out of necessity and stubbornness. It had served its purpose, kept me alive, kept me moving forward, but it had never been more than survival. Dante offered me more than survival. He offered me life. I'm sure, I said, turning back to him. Take me home. The smile that crossed his face was brilliant. Home, he repeated, like he was testing the word. Yes. Let's go home. The drive back felt different, lighter, like I'd shed some invisible weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. When we pulled through those iron gates, when I saw that beautiful house lit up against the night sky, something in my chest unlocked completely. This was home now. He was home now. Inside, Dante pulled me close again, his hands framing my face with that gentleness that never failed to surprise me. Emma Collins, you've made me the happiest man alive tonight. You know that? I'm starting to realize it. Good. Because I plan to spend every day proving I'm worthy of the gift you've given me. His thumb traced my lower lip. Your trust. Your presence. You, Dante. I covered his hands with mine. I love you too. I don't know if it's smart or safe or sane, but I do. I love you. The kiss he gave me was different from the others. Softer, deeper, full of promise instead of just passion. When he swept me into his arms and carried me up those stairs, I didn't protest. When he laid me on that cloud-like bed and worshipped every inch of me the way he'd promised, I surrendered completely. And later, when I lay wrapped in his arms, listening to his heartbeat slow as he drifted toward sleep, I realized something fundamental had shifted. I'd walked into that alley 2 weeks ago as one person, alone, struggling, invisible to the world. I'd caught a falling stranger and somehow caught myself in the process. Now I was someone different, someone cherished, someone protected, someone loved with an intensity that should have been frightening, but instead felt like finally being seen. Thank you. Dante murmured into my hair, half asleep. For saving me. For staying. For choosing this. For choosing me. Thank you for falling into my arms, I whispered back. His arms tightened around me, possessive even in sleep, and I let myself sink into it, the possession, the protection, the fierce devotion of a man who'd turned my world upside down and somehow made it right. The cage had become a sanctuary, the chains had become wings, and the stranger who'd collapsed into my arms had become home. Outside, rain began to fall again, soft, cleansing, washing away the last traces of who I used to be. But inside, wrapped in warmth and safety and love, I'd never felt more free. This was my new life, my choice, my future. And I was finally, fully, completely ready to embrace it.